أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد وسلم السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. First of all praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of the worlds, the creator of the human beings, who we will meet one day, inshallah, in a good state. We all hope in Allah's mercy that we will reach Him in a good state at the time of death. Peace and salutations upon the beloved Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, upon the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, upon the friends of Allah and upon the whole of Ummah. So first we thank Allah for enabling us to come here today. At such a time in the morning where everybody values sleep. Sleep is such that people value this. They need that rest. And sometimes when you're in a deep sleep and you have to get up and come, maybe even drive from another city or a town, then that becomes mujahidah. Becomes, for some people, it becomes very, very difficult. But they know at the end there is something very special as well. So if you want something special, then you have to put that effort in. Without the effort, you won't get that jewel at the end. So mujahidah is part of your life. Because if you wake up in the morning, you might be going to work. You wake up in the morning, you might be going to college or university. So that is mujahidah as well. You're doing the mujahidah. But this is another type of mujahidah that you're doing. Mujahidah, getting up in the morning so you can come to the masjid, so you can come to the house of Allah, so that you can become close to Him. So this is a type of mujahidah. And any type of mujahidah you do for the sake of Allah is not disregarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You will get your reward in return. And the reward will be immense, not something like, for example, you go to work, you get a wage at the end. Now that wage is for this world. Maybe you can utilize that money for your family members, you can spend that money on yourself, you can go out for meals, you can do whatever, you can pay the bills. But the reward that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you for putting the effort in coming closer to Him, or for His deen, or giving dawah, or whichever way you think is going to affect somebody, then the reward is immense. So for example, a person might do mujahidah, a person might do zikr, the person might do meditation, the person might pray the Quran, the person might pray salah, nawafils. But a person might give dawah. Now look at it has been mentioned that person who gives dawah, they imagine the Jannah of the Prophets, alayhimus salam, is right at the top, above everybody else's. And says the person who gives dawah, his Jannah is just below the Jannah of the Prophets, alayhimus salam. Now if a person does, he does the zikr, the prayer, everything, but he just looks after himself, he'll never reach that level. He'll never reach that level. To reach that level, you have to do something which the Prophet ﷺ did, which is to convey the message to others, to put that extra effort in, to take somebody away from the hellfire. Just think, for example, if somebody is not practicing and somebody is practicing. Now somebody who is not practicing, he's going towards the hellfire. Somebody who's doing haram. I mean, people do haram, it's not because, some people are put into, they're around the wrong crowd and they perform the haram because their friends are doing it, so they'll do it. But others, they just don't know, that the consequences of doing the haram. They've not been given that knowledge or education. All they've been told is, brother, this is haram, don't do it. Simple as. That's all they've been told. But this is haram. Why are you doing this? This is haram, don't do it. This is haram, don't do it. No. Now, when you sit with somebody and you explain to them that, look, by doing this, this is what's going to happen. These are the consequences, and this is what's going to happen in the hereafter as well, in the result of this haram that you're doing. Then he might start thinking, okay, you know what, it's not worth it. I'll try and stay away from this. So when you say to somebody, when you're young, your parents will say to you, do your namaz, pray your namaz, yeah? But the young person doesn't understand this language, pray your namaz. What is namaz? What does namaz do? What is the benefits of namaz? What are the consequences of not praying? These things, if you tell them, then they'll understand that, okay, you know what, I really have a choice now, and I really understand why people keep on telling me to pray namaz. Because when you don't impart that knowledge upon them, then they won't know. And when they won't know, they'll perform that through ignorance. They'll perform these acts through ignorance. And it is our duty, the people of the path, the people who has a teacher, to impart this knowledge upon them and to go to them. They're not going to come into the masjid. If they were going to come into the masjid, then you'll see the masjids will be full. But they're empty. But you have to make that time and effort to go out and convey the message to them. Why? Just think, a person who's not practicing, a person is doing his own worship, and a person who's not practicing, a da'i, he goes out and he gives the message to the person. Now this person, has changed his life. By you giving him the message, he's changed his life. Now he's praying, he's doing zikr, he's coming to the gatherings. Who's going to get the reward for this? It's a sadaqah jariyah, isn't it? So imagine you've given message to thousands of people in your life. Now these thousands of people, maybe out of the 1,000 people that you gave, maybe let's say 200 are practicing. The other 800 are not. Now the 200 are practicing, the reward is coming to you as well. Now this person is doing his own worship. Now he only has his own worship to take on the Day of Judgment. While the other person, the 200 people that are doing the worship, the zikr, being in the right company. And imagine them conveying the message to other people, because once you start practicing, you're going to tell your family members. You're going to tell other people. So they're going to start practicing as well. So what's happening here? All this reward is coming to you. And that's why on the Day of Judgment, people will come and they won't have anything, just a little bit of worship and this and that. And then suddenly, a big amounts of deeds will be placed on the book of good deeds, and they'll be shocked. Ya Allah, I've not done all this. How has this come about? Ya Allah, I've not done this. And then they'll say, remember that time you conveyed the message to this person. he changed his life and he started practicing. You might not even know. You might just go out and say something to somebody. You might not even know that he's changed his life. You might never see him again. But them words that you have said something to him had an effect on his heart. And because of that, he changed his life. And then you'll see it on the Day of Judgment. So these are one of the things, I mean, that's not my main topic, it just came out anyway. But what I'm trying to say is that you should try and up the ante, as they say. You know, don't just think about yourself, think about others, put others before you. You know, and now's the time to do this. Don't come on the Day of Judgment just with your own good deeds. Come, and because of you conveying the message to others, come with massive full of good deeds, big amounts of good deeds, so that you can make the Prophet ﷺ happy as well. Meaning, when a person conveys the message, the Prophet ﷺ becomes happy because you're following in their footsteps. You know, there's many sunnahs of the Prophet ﷺ, but one of the biggest sunnah is conveying the message to others. This is one of the sunnahs. You know, other sunnah is want to be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The love of Allah. So the person always wants to be in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anyway, when a person gets to see, I mean, many of the speeches I listen to of the mashaykhs, it always boils down to this one point many times. And I want to clear this matter as well, so that, you know, we understand as well. So the mashaykhs are saying that when a person sees or observes something abnormal or supernatural, so it's the perception of the common man. So the common person will think to himself, or a common person, common man or woman, somehow they relate it to divine intervention. So they think, okay, that this is like, you know, a person is close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because he's getting this supernatural, he observes something supernatural, he sees something in visions or in dreams or in other things like this. So he thinks the other person, the common person, when he hears this, he thinks that this person is close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not everything which is beyond our understanding or against the natural laws or habits is divine in the sense. So not everything that you see or not everything that you hear others see is not actually from the divine. So they start thinking that this person is closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the criteria to judge someone is not through supernatural activities, but through the sacred law and the Sharia law and what the Prophet ﷺ has brought to you. So if a person simply keeps this in mind and just think about the shaitan, yeah? Shaitan, who everybody knows and believes and has no closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everybody knows about the shaitan. Nobody can say they don't know about the shaitan, because every time something happens, it was the shaitan, it wasn't me. Why did you do this? Oh, because it was the shaitan, he made me do it. That's what we say, isn't it? That's what majority of the people say, because they don't have that knowledge of the shaitan. What is actually the power of the shaitan? What can the shaitan actually do? You know, now if you knew what the shaitan can actually do, then you would realize that he's not as powerful as what we make him out to be. That's the thing. Once again, the lack of knowledge. And the course of purification isn't just about ticking your sheets. It isn't just about, oh, I've done my tongue sheet for 30 days, I've ticked it, yes, that's it. You know, I've done my course, or I've done my eyes 30 days, I've done my ears 30 days, I've done it, or I've done my 7 organs, or I've done my mind. It's not about that. The course of self-purification yeah, is about, yes, monitoring yourself, but you still have to come to the majalises to learn about the knowledge to do the course of purification as well. Otherwise, you'll fall all the time. You'll tick one sheep one day, and next day will be a cross. Tick, cross, tick, cross, tick, cross. By coming to the majalises, what happens is you learn about the tricks of the shaitan. So where you come and you learn, and then you know, okay, these are the mistakes I'm making on my course. Why? Because today I learned in the discourse that this is the tricks of the shaitan, and now this is the reason why I'm failing on this sheet. That's why you see the people who attend the majalises, they are stronger on their course, they are stronger on their muraqabah, they're stronger on the dhikr, because they're always fueling themselves. They always, it's like a car, they're always putting petrol in the car, fueling it up. And the people who don't come, yes, they'll attempt the course, but then they'll fail, and then they won't come back. Or they'll find it difficult to make the attempt again. So this is very, very important. So as you know, shaitan, he has many supernatural abilities. Yeah, he can reach the corners of the world very quickly. His life is very long, consists of millions of years. He does not physically get sick, or he doesn't get any diseases. He has control of many shayateens and jinns, and even human beings. So he has magicians, sorcerers, and he has access to evil powers. He can fly in the air without a plane. We need a plane, he doesn't need a plane, so he can just fly in the air. Even though he has all this, is he close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or not? This is a question. He's not, is he? He's not closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so I'll just add this bit where I mentioned about the shaitan. Now the shaitan, within us there's the nafs and the shaitan. The shaitan is constantly bombarding us with thoughts. But then we have the power physically to either refuse or accept his invitation. So he's giving an invitation. So it's like this glass of water. I say to somebody here, okay, have this glass of water, do you want to drink? And he says, yes, I'll take it and I'll drink it. And the other one will say, no, it's okay, I'm okay, I don't need water. So that's what the shaitan does. He gives an invitation. So it's up to us whether we take the invitation or not. But why do you feel helpless? Like sometimes you feel as though you're like possessed. You know, a thought comes and you're not strong enough to fight it. And then you go towards that act and you commit the sin and then you repent. So at that time, you know, it's easy to say, okay, it's only invitation, I won't take the invitation. But sometimes the invitation is laced, you know, with many things that look attractive. The invitation is laced with many things that look attractive. So when the shaitan gives you that invitation, suddenly something that wasn't attractive looks attractive. It's like somebody going for marriage and he's never seen his wife before. So she's always got a veil on her face. So he said, oh, I'm happy with whoever I get married to this time. He tells his parents. And then eventually when they get married, she unveils herself and then he's not happy. He sees something that he's not happy with. You know, at the beginning when somebody's got a veil, face veil or whatever, they might look, oh, okay, you know, the mind has this, the shaitan puts in your mind, yes, you know, there's something very beautiful, this, that, the other. And then when it comes to the reality, then you know that it's not there. And this is what the shaitan does. He makes things look beautiful. And then when the person does the act, in essence, then he realizes how disgusting this was. And now the shaitan, the reason why people are helpless at that time is they've let the shaitan on the second stage of the mind. They say that when you reach a certain level, when you let the shaitan into your mind too much, meaning, for example, shaitan puts a thought, then you expand on the thought, and then you come to a point on the third stage of the thinking stage, is there on the wall as well. When a person goes, when his mind becomes red, then he does the act. He can't control himself. But one of the ways is it comes into the mind. So what they say is, the Mashaykhs mentioned that, when a person has heedlessness, meaning he lets his mind wander around and he doesn't focus on his mind, he doesn't pay attention to his mind, where his mind is going, and he's heedless, and he lets the thoughts come into his mind. You know how they say, protect your eyes, while you're walking, so that they don't fall onto something. Don't just aimlessly look around like this. While you're walking, just protect your eyes. You don't know, suddenly the thought will come and you look. It might just be an accidental look, but then sometimes it can be detrimental as well, because then the video will start playing in your mind. So they said, always be aware where you're looking. So same way in the mind, when the thought comes into his mind and he doesn't pay attention to these thoughts, then it feeds the nafs. And when it feeds the nafs, it becomes strong. And when it becomes strong, then what happens is the person will perform the act of disobedience. So always pay attention in the mind as well, to not let that happen. Anyway, so the shaitan, he can fly, he can do all these things, but we know that he's not close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because he went against the sacred law, the Sharia law, which means the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned this, and he went against this. Same way, if somebody says he gets these dreams, good dreams, sorry about that. I think someone just come up and maybe it's the shaitan. So same way, if somebody goes against the Sharia law and he has these supernatural acts, meaning he gets these visions and stuff like this, but at the end he doesn't practice the Sharia law. So this person, whatever he's receiving, it will be, or it can be, from the shaitan. But if a person follows the Sharia law and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, we'll call this act a miracle. So somebody who performs this, it'll be classed as a miracle. So Allah says in the Quran that shaitan also sends revelations or messages to his friends as well. Like we get messages from the angels, people get messages from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even the shaitan, he gets these types of messages as well. He sends these types of messages to the people. In one of the discourses, the Mashaykhs mentioned that the shaitan has a book as well. We have the Quran and the shaitan has his own book. And the book of the shaitan is, when you open it, the first rule in the book is that follow your desires. Do whatever you choose. It doesn't matter, just follow it. Follow your desires. And this is what happens to many, many people today in the world. You'll see that many, many people are just following their own desires. They don't have no law to follow. They don't have, look, people are so misguided that, and so confused that they do not know what to follow. They just follow the laws of the land. They don't follow the divine law. When you say follow the divine law, they say, well, we don't want Sharia law in this country. What is actually the Sharia law? Everybody has the Sharia law. Christianity has the Sharia law. Judaism has the Sharia law. So any religion that came with the divine books has the Sharia law. The Sharia law actually means the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when somebody says, I don't want to practice the Sharia law, they're saying, okay, you don't want to practice the law that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent to you, to your religion. You don't want to practice that. How can that be? So many people are confused in the society as well. They don't know what it means to follow the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And our mashaykhs, they mentioned a righteous person should be very cautious that he should not do anything wrong which the Sharia has commanded, even in secret. So they're telling us, the mashaykhs, just be careful, even in secret, don't do anything, which is, you have to be very, very cautious not to do anything wrong. Having an illicit relationship, some people have a physical relationship, others have a WhatsApp or a Facebook relationship with a girl. Some the financial dealings, in the public they're okay, but privately they're doing something which is against the Sharia law. Even if he doesn't tell anybody. So this is a very, very important point, that even if this person doesn't tell anyone that he's doing something wrong in privately, so he's doing financial dealings are wrong, or he's looking at something that shouldn't be looking at, or he's having a illicit relationship, these things. So he's doing this private, so nobody knows, he's on his own. Yeah. Even if he doesn't tell anybody, his shaitan who is with him or the shayateens around him will go and tell other people, whispering in their minds. So imagine that. So we say, why is this person suddenly, after so many years, gets exposed? How many people do we see on the newspapers? How many people do you see on TVs? How many celebrities that we see get exposed? They've been doing something for years in privately, nobody knows about it, and suddenly, out of the breaking news, this person did this, breaking news, this person. How did this happen? He had it controlled for so many years. The shaitan. The shaitan goes into the mind of the police. You think the shaitan just sits around? He wants you to be exposed. He wants to expose you. We're looking at, for example, people look at pornography in their homes, and suddenly, they get exposed. Somebody might go on their laptop or on their phone and they can see on the search column. Where did that come from? The shaitan wants to get them exposed. A small-time drug dealer is a small-time. A shaitan's got them. Okay, it's okay. You just carry on doing your drugs. And then when he becomes big and he makes that big deal, then the shaitan says, okay, listen, Mr. Policeman, this person, he puts a thought into his mind, this person is going doing this deal, go to him. So then he goes. And then the man is the drug dealer or the person who's been exposed, he's shocked. How did people know? How did this person know? How did the police know? Because he was doing something in private and he thought that, okay, nobody's going to know. And suddenly his shaitan who's with him exposes him to everybody else and destroys his relationship with the community, destroys his relationship with his family members. Person is doing fraud for many, many years and suddenly one day gets exposed. So So be careful. This is what the Mashayikh is saying. Be careful. Be very, very cautious if you're doing something privately as well. There was a time many, many years ago, there was a person who claimed prophethood. And at that time, there was a Khalifa, his name was Mahdi. So Khalifa Mahdi, he was a Khalifa at that time. So this person, he's claiming and he's showing these supernatural acts. So he was brought to the court of the Khalifa. So the Khalifa said to him, you claim to be a prophet, and prophets are supported by many, many miracles. Do you have any miracles? He said, yes, I do. So he said, what is it? What is the miracle? So the imposter said, lock me up in a room somewhere. And he says, put dirhams on the table, put money on the table. And every one of you pick up an amount of dirham in your hands. So any amount that you choose. I will come out of the lock room and I will tell you how much each one of you has in your hand. So this is what he said. The Khalifa said, okay, let's try it. The Khalifa knew he was an imposter. Obviously, he's not going to believe in him. But you know, sometimes you want to expose people, or you want them to fail, so then you can say, okay, look, this is what happened. But sometimes you can fall into the traps as well. So but sometimes when you ask for something, then you can fall into a major trap. And this is what happened. So they locked him up in a room. There's about 60, 70 people in that room in the court of the Khalifa. And they were all given a certain amount. Here you take 15 dirhams, you take 20, you take 30 dirhams, you take 40 dirhams. And there were scholars present as well. So it weren't just normal people, there were scholars there as well. Well, they should have known better, but even then, they were there to have a look at what was going on. So, they asked him when he came out of the lock room, can you inform us how many dirhams we have, the miracle that you're going on about? So he says, fine. So he says, okay, this one has 15 dirhams, this one has 20 dirhams, this one has 30 dirhams, this one has 40 dirhams. And 60, 70 people that were there, he said to each one, this is what you have. Everybody had a look, and it was exactly the amount that he said. Now they were shocked. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to say. So the scholars got together and they had a mashra. They consulted each other. He says, now we've said to him, we've demanded something from him, and he's come up with the goods. What do we do now? In that case, either you believe him that he's a prophet, even though you don't want to believe him, he's an imposter, or you prove that he's wrong. So you have only two choices. So they said this is some kind of shaitanic intervention. So they knew that, or they knew the rule, but they didn't know how to come out of this rule. He has a relationship with the shaitan, and something supernatural is going on. So something is happening here, we don't know what it is. And he says, we cannot win or prove him wrong with just knowledge. So this is the time where they submitted. They said, we can't win him just through knowledge. We have to prove him wrong somehow, but we don't have that knowledge to prove him wrong. We also need a spiritual person. So one of the awliyas or the sufiyas who are divinely helped, so they went to one of the friends of Allah, a great wali living in that city. He didn't want to come to the Khalifa's court because friends of Allah, they normally stay away from these things. Well, we love these things, If the king called us to the court, we'll be running yes, let me get my finest suit on. We won't take the jabba off. The king was impressed by your Amama Sharif and your clothes, that your Islamic clothes that you wore. And as soon as you get the invitation, it's okay, let's take all of this off. The queen is calling us, and we'd be preparing ourselves. But the awliya Allahs, they stayed away from this. They stayed away from, name and fame. They stayed away from these kinds of courts. And even though the kings at that time, the Khalifas, wanted these people in their courts, but they wouldn't be there. He didn't want to come. But after telling him the story, he realized about the iman of the people were at stake. Because if they can't even, find a fault in the imposter, then it's going to slowly filter into the country, and then people start believing in the imposter. So because of this, he came. And the Imam obviously knew that they made a mistake by telling this person, this imposter, to show him a miracle. That's why it's very, very important. Even at the time of Dajjal, what's going to happen? Dajjal's going to come. Yeah. How will Dajjal attract people? He will do many, many supernatural activities, and people will be, they'll be hypnotized by his deception. They'll say, yeah, he's the true one. Look, he can bring the dead back to life. He can do this. He can do that. He must be on the truth. So that's why the Mashaykh is telling us, just be careful. What you see, what others say, and this, that, and the other. Always, the line is the Sharia law. Always make sure, are they following the Sharia? Are they following the Sunnah? If this is there, then Alhamdulillah. So he came. When he came there, he said to the imposter, what miracle have you shown to them? He says, I can tell you anything you do. So the friend of Allah is saying to the one who's claiming prophethood, tell me, what did you show? He says, I can tell you anything. The wali said, okay, you were in the other room before. All I'm asking you is just turn around. Turn around. The friends of Allah, they have their own way of doing things as well. He says, okay, just turn around in the room. You don't need to go in the room, it's fine. Just turn around. And tell me the same thing you told them. So the wali quickly picked up the dirhams and put them in the palm of his hands. So he told the imposter, now tell me how much I have in my hand. So he turns around, he looks at him, and he says, you've got 60 in your hand, 60 dirhams. He says, no, you're wrong. He says, 70. No, you're wrong. So he doesn't know. Now everyone around is even more confused. So all the people that came to the court, they're all looking at him and saying, what's going on now? What's going on? The Khalifa is confused, the people are confused. In the courts, they think, how can he get 60, 70 people right? And there's one person here, and he can't get the right amount. So the imposter was executed. He was executed because he claimed to be a prophet, and he got proven wrong, and he got executed. Afterwards, the Khalifa and the courtiers and the scholars, they got together. And they asked him, how is it that he couldn't tell the right amount? How is it that he couldn't tell the right amount? I'm going to ask you the same thing. I'm going to give you an opportunity to figure it out, how he couldn't tell the right amount. Does anybody have any ideas? Yeah, Tariq.
Maybe the shaitan can influence that friend of Allah, and so for that reason he couldn't guess what amount.
Well, if that is the answer, then that means only that the Wali Allah has the powers, and then none of the other people in the courts if they can fall into the same trap again. But if you notice the friends of Allah, when they always give an answer, they always give a practical answer that everybody else can follow. Not just that they're special and only they can follow. No, they'll give a practical answer. So here is a practical answer that everybody can follow this and they can come out to this trap as well. I've stunned you all. But even when I first heard it as well, I was like racking my brains as well. But inshallah, I'll tell you anyway. So the friend of Allah said what was happening here was that the shaitan, the person has his own personal shaitan, and they were interacting with each other. So every one of you has a shaitan, and there's extra shayateen that are hanging around, wandering around. So when he was absent from you, they were watching you. So when he's saying, here's the 15 dirhams. So the shayateen were looking and they were counting as well. So there is 20 dirhams, there's 30 dirhams, there's 40 dirhams. And then when that person came out, the shayateen told him, okay, this is the amount of money that they have. But that's still not the solution, because that's just showing how they did their trick. Yeah? So it's very easy for the shayateen to communicate when somebody has this interaction with the shayateen. So it's very, very easy for this person to do these types of supernatural things. And the reason why he couldn't tell the amount I had, because of two reasons. One, I did not inform the person of the time that I was going to pick it up. And secondly, he picked it up so quickly that he didn't give a chance for the shayateen to count how much was in his hand. So he didn't give that chance for the shayateen. So he quickly picked it up. Yeah. So sometimes people fall, even the scholars and other people fall into these complex matters. Even knowledgeable people get confused. Because to know about the shayateen and their tricks, you have to be with a teacher who knows about them. Then who can tell you about them. You know. And sometimes another thing that we can learn from here is that sometimes when you get a thought in your mind to do something good, you know, you get a thought in your mind, oh, let's pray some Quran, let's do our zikr meditation, you know, let's go and give dawah. So these thoughts will come in your mind because these are divine thoughts that come through angels or through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when a person gets these thoughts for his own personal self, don't start advertising and telling people, oh, I'm going to do this. Because by telling others, you're also telling your own shaitan what you're going to do. Yeah? So quickly pick up the Quran, make wudu, pick up the Quran and pray. You want to do zikr meditation, don't wait around, don't tell anybody, go and do it yourself. Quickly go and find a space in your house and go and do your zikr meditation. The act that's done straight away when you get a good thought, and the act that's done straight away for that thing, that's where you get the most barakah and the blessings. The moment you start advertising, oh, I'm going to do my zikr and meditation, you say to your wife, oh, you know, I'm going to do my zikr, yeah, don't disturb me. They say, okay, before you go and do your zikr, go and do this for me, go and do that for me, go and do that. And by the time you've done your chores, that love for zikr meditation just come out of your heart. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow now. I'll do it tomorrow. Or you tell your friends, okay, somebody rings you, okay, and you know what, I'm going to see in half an hour, I'm going to do my zikr meditation. It's okay, just wait, before you go, just do this or just do that for me. And before you know it, you know, you've got this thought or somebody's waiting or chalo, I'll do it later on when I come home. And then by the time you come home, it's so late that you don't want to do anything. And this is what happens. So when you get this thought, initial thought, whether it's dawah, whether it's zikr, whether it's meditation, these are the cures. I'm not saying this, I'm not a sheikh or nobody, I'm just a normal brother. Yeah? But these are the teachings of the mashayikh. You know what I mean? These are not my teachings. You know what I mean? So if a person acts upon this, there's many, many solutions given here. One is the tricks of the shaitan. Shaitan is, second is, don't do anything in privately because you'll be exposed one of these days. You know. And third is, don't listen to people's, when a person talks about visions or supernatural activities, then we know that if he's not following the Sharia law, it doesn't mean anything. It can be from the shaitan. But it's our job to keep this knowledge in our mind and then to act upon this knowledge. So anyway, what I was saying was try it sometime. As soon as you get a good thought, just perform the act and you'll see yourself, you know, that, yeah, alhamdulillah, you'll be successful in that act as well. So may Allah forgive me for any mistakes I've made. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wal hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-aliyyil azim.